An old mechanic with over 5 decades of experience once told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Cars don't usually die from age. They're slowly killed by their owners, without them even realizing it." At the time, I thought he was exaggerating. He wasn't. Most cars never even cross 60,000 miles because their owners repeat everyday habits that feel harmless, but are actually silent execution methods. My car, on the other hand, has already crossed 500,000 miles. Not because it's special, not because it's unbreakable, but because I changed 13 very specific habits. Today, I'm going to share them with you. And fair warning, the final 3 on this list shock almost everyone because nearly nobody practices them. Yet they decide whether a car slowly dies or just keeps going forever. Number 13. Don't warm up the engine by idling. For years, I believed letting the car idle for 10 minutes was taking care of it. You probably believed that too. But that habit quietly destroys engines. When a cold engine sits idling, unburned fuel washes down the cylinder walls and strips away the oil film meant to protect them. It's like sanding metal with wet grit. I've seen engines ruined before 40,000 miles because of this. Diluted oil, scratched cylinders, and lost compression. The scary part? People think they're doing the right thing. In reality, engines warm up faster when you start them, wait about 30 seconds, and drive gently for the first mile or two. That's when oil pressure stabilizes properly. I abandoned cold idling years ago, and it became a form of life insurance for my engine. If you want your car to see 150,000 miles and beyond, stop idling. Gentle driving does more protection than sitting still ever will. Number 12. Never top off the tank after the pump clicks. At some point, everyone has tried squeezing in a little extra fuel after the pump shuts off. I used to do it too. That tiny habit is poison. Your fuel tank needs empty space for vapor to move into the evap system. When you force fuel past the click, you push liquid gasoline into a system designed only for vapor. That leads to drowned sensors, ruined charcoal canisters, fuel-soaked hoses, and repair bills between $300 and $900. All because someone wanted just a little more. Once I learned that, I stopped instantly. If the pump clicks, I'm done. That extra splash isn't worth destroying emissions components that cost a fortune. Number 11. Change transmission fluid regularly. This myth kills cars quietly. People assume transmission fluid lasts forever because they don't see it like engine oil. It still looks red, still smells fine, so they ignore it. Big mistake. Transmissions constantly shed microscopic metal particles. Over time, those particles turn the fluid into liquid sandpaper. By the time you feel slipping, the damage is already severe. My rule was clear. Every 60,000 miles or 6 years, fresh fluid. On hybrids, I stretched it to 90,000 at most. Always the exact fluid specified. No guessing. I've seen transmissions look almost new at extreme mileage, simply because this step was never skipped. That habit alone kept my car on the road decades longer than most. Number 10. Brake with anticipation, not panic. This sounds obvious, yet almost nobody does it. Hard braking doesn't just wear pads. It warps rotors, overheats fluid, and cooks the entire system. I've seen cars with warped brakes at barely 10,000 miles because every red light was treated like a race finish. The habit that changed everything? Lift early. Coast more. Engine braking on downhill stretches doubled the life of my pads and rotors. And when replacement time comes, Never buy the cheapest pads. Cheap brakes squeal, fade, and wear twice as fast. In the end, cheap parts always cost more. Number 9. Flush coolant on schedule. Coolant isn't just for overheating emergencies. Modern aluminum engines are unforgiving. Once an engine overheats badly, it's often finished. Coolant degrades over time, loses corrosion protection, and starts damaging components from the inside. Mixing coolant types is even worse. I've seen radiators turn into jelly because of it. My rule never changed. Every 3 to 5 years, a full flush with the correct coolant. No improvising. One overheating incident can doom an engine forever, a risk I never accepted. Number 8. Never ignore strange noises. Turning up the radio to hide noises is the fastest way to meet a tow truck. Every sound is a warning. A whistle can be a belt ready to snap. A click on turns could be a failing CV joint. A hum might be a dying bearing. One client ignored a small ticking noise. His oil level was dangerously low. The result? A torn engine and a $2,000 repair. Listen. Observe when the sound happens. That awareness alone has saved me thousands. Number 7. Don't abuse the clutch. If you drive manual, this habit decides everything. Resting your foot on the clutch slowly burns it out. Even light pressure causes wear. I've seen clutches destroyed in 25,000 miles. Purely driver error. My rule was simple. Foot off the pedal. Neutral at stops. Parking brakes on hills. That discipline gave me nearly 200,000 miles on one clutch. Number 6. Never let your fuel tank drop below a quarter. You've probably seen drivers cruising with the fuel needle glued to empty, thinking they're being smart and saving money. In reality, that habit quietly destroys one of the most expensive components in your car, the fuel pump. The pump lives inside the tank and relies on fuel to stay cool. When levels get too low, it starts pulling in hot air and debris sitting at the bottom of the tank. That heat cooks the pump, while the dirt travels straight into your injectors. I've replaced fuel pumps with barely 50,000 miles on them, not because they were defective, but because the owner drove on fumes every day. The bill? Easily $600, sometimes more. Plus the joy of being stranded at the worst possible moment. My rule was simple. Never below a quarter tank. The pump stayed cool, filters lasted longer, and I never had to push my car to a station. It sounds small, but that one habit alone saved me years of headaches and repairs. Number 5. Replace spark plugs early, and only use OEM quality ones. A lot of people believe spark plugs are a lifetime part, especially when they hear 100,000-mile plugs. That number is marketing, not reality. In perfect lab conditions, sure, but real life isn't perfect. Cold starts, traffic jams, cheap fuel, plugs wear out much sooner. I started inspecting mine around 40,000 miles and replacing them before trouble began. Worn plugs cause misfires, waste fuel, destroy catalytic converters, and in extreme cases can even damage pistons. All that risk just to save a few dollars, and cheap plugs are even worse. I've seen engines ruined because a shop installed bargain plugs to save $20. The final repair? Over $2,000. OEM or trusted brands like NGK and Denso made all the difference. With fresh quality plugs, starts were smooth, throttle response was sharp, and the engine stayed healthy mile after mile. Consistency like that is how cars reach extreme mileage. Number 4. Inspect and replace engine mounts before they fail. Most drivers assume engine mounts last forever. They don't. Mounts don't just hold the engine in place, they absorb vibration and protect everything around it. When they wear out, the engine begins to move far more than it should. At first, you feel a mild vibration or a small clunk when starting, but underneath, the transmission, exhaust, and radiator are all taking hits they were never designed to handle. I've seen cracked exhaust, broken radiators, and misaligned transmissions, all traced back to ignored mounts. One car I inspected had its engine nearly resting on the frame. The owner said, "I thought old cars just vibrate." Yes, until they hand you a $2,000 repair bill. The test is easy. Brake pressed, shift into drive or first gear, and lightly rev. If the engine jumps aggressively, that mount is done. Cheap to diagnose, affordable to fix early. Ignore it, and your car turns into a rolling rattletrap. Number 3. Never approve urgent repairs without proof. This habit is less about mechanics and more about mindset. Many cars die early because owners waste money on unnecessary repairs while ignoring the real problems. You've seen it happen. Go in for an oil change, leave with a list of urgent services you never asked for. Mystery flushes, injector cleanings, parts you didn't even know existed. The truth is, many service advisors are trained to sell fear. One customer came to me panicked after being told he needed a $400 transmission flush at just 20,000 miles. That's like telling a child they need heart surgery after running at recess. My rule was firm. No proof, no approval. If something was wrong, I wanted photos. If they pressured me, I got a second opinion. That skepticism saved me thousands. When someone says, "Your car could fail any moment," I usually reply, "So could your marriage. But I'm not paying you for that." Conversation ends quickly. Number 2. Keep battery terminals clean and protected. This sounds almost too basic, which is why people ignore it. That white, crusty buildup on battery terminals acts like insulation. Slowly, it restricts current flow, forcing the alternator to work harder. The result? Dead batteries, failing alternators, no start situations. I've seen people ready to spend $900 on starters when all they needed was a wire brush and baking soda. My routine was simple. Check every few months, clean if needed, and apply dielectric grease to prevent corrosion. Modern cars rely heavily on stable electrical systems. Sensors, computers, modules, they all demand clean power. That tiny habit kept my car starting instantly every morning, even deep into high mileage. Number 1. Always use the parking brake. Every single time. This is the most ignored habit, and the one that fills repair shops with money. Many drivers think shifting into P is enough. It's not. That letter doesn't lock your wheels. It engages a small metal pin inside the transmission called a parking pawl. When you park on a slope without the handbrake, the entire weight of the car rests on that tiny piece of metal. I've seen transmissions destroyed because of this mistake. Repairs close to $3,000, all because someone skipped a free habit. My rule never changed. Parking brake first, then shift into P. Uphill, downhill, even on flat ground. That simple sequence saves transmissions. If someone tells me they trust the transmission instead of the handbrake, I tell them they might as well use a paperclip to hold up a garage door. Same ending. Disaster. So now tell me, which of these habits were you already doing, and which one surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Because here, We share the habits mechanics actually use, the ones that save your car, your money, and your sanity.